Think about it. You're the senior graduate student. You've been working on your dissertation for 6 years.
7.
7. You're the one that looks after us, not Davis. She's not even in town half the time. She's out raking in big bucks, consulting. When we need real help, we come to you. You run the program.
Well, it's what I'm supposed to do. She's busy.
That's right, doing everything but what she gets paid to do.
Whatever. Look, I'm not sweating it. Next month, I'll hand in the first draft of my dissertation, and after a few revisions, I'll be out of here in May.
Yeah.
Graduation.
Yeah.
Yeah, graduate.
You really
I'm going to graduate.
You said that before.
I know, but this year I'm going to do it.
Yeah, whatever.
Fabulous work, Mike. It's really great. It's highly publishable. You can easily squeeze several more papers out of this. You should write it up immediately. Do it now, before you finish your dissertation.
But we've already got 2 papers in the review.
Publish, even if it means you have to spend a few more months in the lab. Trust me, it's worth it. Let's do this. Instead of graduating this year, let's look to next. That way you can publish and whip this into really great shape, okay?
Dr. Davis, I was hoping to graduate in May.
It's not possible. You have more work to do here. Stay 1 more year. Professionally, it'll be to your advantage.
I don't believe it.
Yep. Another year.
That's not fair. She just wants you around so she can jet off and do her consulting gigs while you stay here and do a real job.
I don't know. Maybe my dissertation's not ready.
Mike, wake up. She's using you. Listen, if I were in your shoes, I would talk to the department chair. I'll bet this isn't the first time he's heard this complaint about Davis. Something to think about.
I can't believe you're taking this seriously, Carl. He's a grad student.
This isn't the first time we've had this kind of discussion, Michelle.
But his dissertation isn't ready. He could do so much more with an additional year. I'm sorry, I've got a meeting.
I'm told you've accepted a big consulting job in New York, I believe.
My responsibility is first and foremost to my students, Carl. If Mike invests this time now, his career will benefit forever. I'm not thinking of myself, Carl.
Well, they're really giving me the treatment. Fancy dinner and everything.
When?
In May.
You must be so proud to be retiring after such a productive career.
Well, everyone has a few skeletons in their closet. When I was in graduate school, studying with Charlie Jackson, a renowned limnologist, Charlie was a guru of research funding, a master. He always had money to keep his PhDs busy. The department grew, and they hired a new faculty member, Don White, who was supposed to learn the nuts and bolts of research funding from Jackson. Jackson's latest coup was a huge grant to study water quality in lakes all over the world. So Jackson spent that summer collecting samples, thousands of vials ready to run through the GC.
Oh, and let me guess, you were the lucky grad student.
Yep, and I'd never run a GC before. But Jackson dumped the vials at my lab and told me to analyze them, hundreds of them.
He didn't help you?
He gets the grants. Everyone else does the work. I'd finally figured out how to run the GC. Then one day, I realized something curious happening. All of the samples from the topmost layer of every lake seemed to have a large peak in the GC trace. Every tray I ran, I got the same huge peak, but only for the surface sample. The best we could do in identifying it was to presume it contained 4 carbons. But beyond that, we had no idea what it was. Jackson got really excited. He had dollar signs in his eyes. He prepared a paper for the Journal of Limnology reporting the data on what he referred to as the universal 4-carbon compound. He listed himself as the principal author, me as the second author.
Hey, you must have been thrilled.
Well, I was. But then Jackson decided to be a generous mentor to White.
What the hell is this, Charlie?
I wanted to do you a favor.
Favor. You added my name to a paper without my consent?
Hey, welcome to academia. You wanted to learn the grant game. Well, this is how it works. You add my name, I add yours.
You could have at least let me read the paper before you published it. I'd never even seen any of the data. And besides, something in there doesn't make any sense.
Hey, look, this is really big. It's a gold mine for funding, all right? So just relax.
Who ran the GC?
McTaggart.
Did he run all the samples at once?
He ran one tray from a different lake every day.
So, every day, he always started with the sample from the topmost layer of the lake, didn't he?
I suppose so.
And this is your universal 4-carbon compound?
Yeah.
Charlie, that peak is nothing but garbage from the previous day's experiments. There is no universal 4-carbon compound.
White wrote a retraction, but he never did get over the embarrassment. He almost ended my career before it even started. I'll see you at my retirement dinner.
Do you remember Drew Ingalls? Well, he was a postdoc when we were just starting our work in Archer's lab at Gates. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, if you remember, Drew was my idol when he came to Gates. He was already a postdoc and always had the most remarkable data. Well, his dissertation was a benchmark for all the other grad students. Archer called it an exemplary piece of work. You remember how he suddenly left and went down the road to UNC? I heard from a friend of mine that he suddenly left there as well. This morning I get a call from the University of Michigan. Apparently they want to hire Ingalls and they're looking for recommendations. Well, that call brought back some memories, especially of an incident that still bothers me. I don't think I ever told you about it. It was right after spring break. We were all in the lab working and... Hey, knock knock.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. This is kind of touchy, but I need to ask you something.
Okay.
Last week when you did that scintillation counter run, I thought I saw you with a full tray, 80 vials.
Yeah?
Well, this morning at the research team meeting, you only reported 40 data points.
The other 40 points were no good. I omitted them.
You threw them out?
Something happened to the calibration. Sometimes it seems to drift on this instrument. The points were clearly wrong. I threw them out.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Hey, I need some advice.
Yeah, that's what they pay me for.
Look, I don't know the best way to handle this, but I think Drew is cooking his data. Throwing out data points that don't fit. This is how he gets such excellent results.
Chris, I think Drew is smart enough to know when an experiment is a bust and the data are no good. Besides, everything he's ever done has held up.
Well, yeah, but are we supposed to report everything?
Look, part of science is knowing what is and what is not valid data. If I drop a flask and don't report it, no one will care. And I'm sure that Drew knows when to reject data, and he doesn't need you to tell him.
Remember how Drew seemed to disappear? Well, later we found out he got the job at UNC. Arch never let on to anything, but all of a sudden he does an about-face and starts to spend a lot more time in the lab. Oh, and Drew left his position at UNC under similar mysterious circumstances. Anyway, when they called and asked about him, I decided not to tell about the incident. There was nothing ever made public. Besides, I have no idea what happened at UNC. What do you think I should have done?
We've sure enjoyed having you with us this year. You've brought a whole new perspective to our sociology department.
Thanks to you. What an opportunity this is for me. My entire career I have spent working under communist dictatorship. You had to be a Marxist to even get to study sociology. Here at your university, I have been granted so much freedom.
Which we often do not appreciate. Any downsides? It'll stay in this room.
Actually, there is one thing. Some time ago, I got into a very interesting discussion with Saeed Al-Azim about his paper on gangs and gang behavior. He had done some very wonderful research, but there were still a lot of unanswered questions. How do gang members designate a leader?
If we could predict that, maybe it would be possible to infiltrate gangs with leaders that would reduce gang violence. But the survey instrument is too ambiguous.
Maybe I can help. Some years ago, when my country was still communist, the regime was worried about how dissident gangs were formed and how their leaders were chosen. They wanted to suppress the dissidents. So, they contracted with the sociology department of my university to conduct a study. Unwillingly, I became a part of that study. First, they arrested 100 people on false charges. These people were divided into 5 groups and placed in a prison camp. Unknown to the prisoners, they were being video and audio recorded to try and find out how they chose their leaders. After a week in isolation, each group was supposed to appoint one representative to discuss their release, the leader. Then everyone was released, except for the leaders. Those 5 leaders were subjected to several more weeks of questions to build a character profile.
And you have the results of this experiment?
Yes. The data could help you determine how gang leadership develops.
I'm not sure I can use it.
Why not? The experimental design was excellent.
It's unethical. Look what these people went through. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
Of course. It was a horrible abuse of power.
And you were part of it.
I had no choice.
You could have refused to participate.
And I might not be here now. Look, Said, at least take the data and let it do some good, huh? It might help make a change, save someone's life.